Exhibit B in terms of what's important to keep in mind when we talk about these other things. We talk about infighting amongst those left of center in the Democratic primary, within the Democratic primary field. This story. A Republican-appointed judge in Wisconsin, and we've talked about this, basically ruled that it was okay, or rather that there should be 230,000 Wisconsin voters purged from the election rolls before 2020. And the election commission is made up of 3 Democrats and 3 Republicans. The 3 Democrats have said, we're not doing it. We're waiting for the appeal. Voting's too important. And they're getting charged now $50 a day and $250 a day each, these individuals. There should be a GoFundMe set up for these people, frankly. And one of the election commission members said she believes that the judge's initial findings were incorrect and she doesn't want to begin taking people off the rolls, even though she's been found in contempt of court. If we're going to treat voting as the central component of our democracy, we need to be far less cavalier about taking people off the rolls. At issue, and this is according to the... it's the Wisconsin Sentinel, I think it is. Milwaukee Sentinel, I'm not sure. We just find out what this is. Judge finds Wisconsin Elections Commissions in contempt of court, orders them to quickly remove people from the rolls. Somehow it didn't print out for me. I think it's the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. At issue is the status of more than 200,000 people. Wisconsin, obviously a key state in this election. Hillary Clinton lost that state by about 22,000 votes. Voters can re-register, but of course they have no idea if they've been taken off the rolls. What happened was in October, 2 or 3 months ago, the Elections Commission sent out letters to 230,000 people it believed may have moved and asked them to update their voter registrations or confirm they were at the same address. Now, I don't know about you, how closely you look at every piece of mail that you get sent that doesn't look like it's a bill or a check.
I open about 1% of my mail.
And
Same.
You got 2 kids with you. You gotta feed them. You gotta go to bed. You gotta work hard, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, there's a myriad of reasons why you wouldn't send this back to confirm your address. Seriously? Or maybe you haven't had it forwarded to you. And the idea that you moved like across the street, a different apartment, or down the house, or whatever it is. And ultimately, like, what difference does it make if out of those 230,000 people, 170,000 have moved out of state? But you can salvage the voting rights of 50,000 of those people. What possible difference did it make to the integrity of the election? It's just the integrity of the voter rolls, and it's not even the integrity. It's just like, how efficient are they? This is just like the difference between I've got all my files on my desktop on my computer, and I know I should probably have them in my documents folder. So the elections commissioner planned to remove them from the rolls in 2021 if they didn't act. So therefore, like, if you come and vote and you see that there's some type of disparity, you can fix your address. And if you don't come and vote, then it's an indication that maybe you have left the state. We'll wait till 2021 after these elections in 2020. Republican group went in front of that judge and said the state has to remove them from the rolls now, before any of these elections, so that there is no other warning to these people that your registration may or may not be in jeopardy other than that little card that got sent once in October. The judge agreed, ordered the voters purged immediately. The Supreme Court of Wisconsin, which, as you know, is controlled by Republicans because people couldn't like engage on the importance of the Supreme Court in Wisconsin. And Democrats lost that election. I think it was in 2018, in the run up to 2018, or maybe after. I can't remember. The Supreme Court decided not to get involved only because one of the judges had recused himself because they're up for re-election in the fall. So it's now going to go down to an appellate court, which is probably going to be more favorable to the idea that people shouldn't be kicked off the voter rolls. And so these Democratic Elections Commission people are basically holding out for that because they know when you purge people, it's much harder to unpurge. And if the Supreme Court eventually does weigh in, they're going to do so probably after they're not going to be able to do it until after the 2020 election, when you will get a whole nother updated set of data as to whether these people are around and where they're living. But this stuff is, in many respects, so much more important than what we're going to be talking about in terms of what's going on within the primary.
Yeah, what's the justification for this? Like, we all know why they're doing it, really, but like, what's the alleged harm that would come from letting people vote who've changed their address recently?
It's not even that, because they're not even making that case. They're just making that the registration rolls may be inaccurate. When you come in, they're going to ask you if your address is correct. And then maybe they'll give you a provisional ballot, or maybe you come in for the primary and you find out that you're not registered. And you can vote in the general. There's a whole host of that. Their only argument is that if you have, and this has always been the Republican argument, this is why they say, like, we can't have dead people registered on the voting rolls, because presumably there's a whole squad of people out there who are like waiting for people to die. It's like Paper Moon or something.
Death
and
Squad.
Exactly. And they're going around going like, oh, I see. Francine died at age 96. We just got to, we'll get Betty, who's 96, who we've got on ice, waiting to come in to pretend like she's Francine so she can vote both as Francine and Betty. We just got to transport her. I mean, like, it's absurd. But it is because, as the head of the Republican Party in Wisconsin said, like, this is the way we do it. We suppress votes. And this stuff is so much more important. Well, it's not so much more important, but it's important to keep in mind in the context of this election. Like, the difference between Joe Biden and Elizabeth Warren in terms of them being president is going to have huge implications for things like labor laws, like corporate power, like the judicial branch of government. Not going to affect the state necessarily, but in terms of like priorities that are demanded of Congress. That is just the fact. And before we get into this with Bernie and Warren too, I also